It'll expose the family secrets. It'll hurt the family name.
Do the right thing. Speak up for her. Help out your brother and sister-in-law because you know, and that is not dishonoring. They have already dishonored themselves.
Honoring authority does not mean we cover for unrighteousness.
The time has finally come to shine the light of truth on the situation.
Wake up and win. Wake up.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Wake Up and Win podcast. We're your hosts, Blaise and
Christina.
And we're back with you for another episode tonight. It's like a midnight episode, literally East Coast time.
Yes.
It's like 1 a.m. right now.
Is it?
But why are we up, Christina? Why are we up for such a late night?
Well, we've been painting.
We have
Is
been
that
painting.
what you mean? We just got, well, we didn't just get it because sleep. They've been asleep for a little bit.
Yeah.
We've been painting. And there's just like a crazy story that we were like, okay, we got to talk about this. We got to talk about it.
It's a breaking story, and it's a heartbreaking story, actually. So it is definitely breaking news, but it is terrible. It involves the Marcus and Suzy Lamb. Sorry, not Marcus. Marcus and Joni Lamb and their son, Jonathan, and his wife, Suzy Lamb, and pretty much all their kids. And, of course, Marcus passed away in 2020, I believe, or 2021. Joni got remarried. So this is Daystar Television, the largest television station out of Dallas, Texas, I think, or the largest Christian. They're basically like TBN 2.0 or something like that. Very, very wealthy family, very huge network. I remember I grew up in Dallas and watching Channel 15, Daystar, and I'd watch all these. Oh, totally.
I've never watched it.
Yeah. Maybe it was because back then it was local, like in the 90s and early 2000s, but it's blown up. It's huge. So this is trigger warning. This involves CSA specifically, so it's not something you want your kids probably listening to if you're in the car or something like that. And yeah, it's just honestly, at the end of the day with this podcast, as we cover this stuff, we're going to be reading Julie Royce article, another woman named Candy. I don't remember her last name, but we're reading these articles, we'll watch some of the videos and react to it. We want to give all the info in this podcast, though. Yeah. Everything you need to know about the story, hopefully within this hour or 2 hours, however long it takes. I know, seriously. That is confidence that I have right now. I am secure. But we're having our coffee tonight. But yeah, hopefully everything you need to know will come, right through this whole podcast for everything going on. And it's pretty mind blowing, though. Yeah. Let's do it. Let's dive in. Okay. Let's start with, what do you think? Start with
maybe Julie,
or maybe
or
the one
their
that
video.
Their video that they did yesterday. So let's dive right into that. There we go.
So last night they put out this video, which will actually be the night before last night by the time you see this.
True.
But be the day before the Julie Royce article came out, they put out this video.
Yeah, and this is Jonathan Lamb right here, who is Joni and Marcus's son, who I believe up until like this past week was like the vice president or something.
Not until this past week, but yes, he was the vice president, and he was supposed to be like the
heir of the...
Right, it's supposed to be his now. I think it was in the Julie Royce article. She gets into it a little bit, but originally after his father passed, it was going to be passed on to him, but instead it went to Joni and her new husband. Gotcha. Or I guess Joni, and then now Joni and her new husband.
Yeah.
Interesting, but
it gets interesting here, but let's dive in. Let's listen to him.
You have been concerned about how we're doing, and we just wanted to let you know that we know. Hey guys, Jonathan and Suzy Lamb here. We just wanted to get on here because so many of you have been concerned about how we're doing, and we just wanted to let you know that we no longer work at Daystar. A lot has been going on over the last couple of years that we just couldn't talk about. But we've given over all of our evidence over to multiple reporters, including the police department. Daystar was contacted for a comment.
They've given over everything to reporters and a police department. That was what struck me. I was like, oh my gosh, this is legal.
By the journalist Friday, November 15th. And then I was subsequently fired the following day, November 16th.
Some scary things happened, being followed, private investigators, intimidation, threats, even through all of that, things.
That's like Scientology type.
Talk about it.
Energy there.
No kidding.
This is literally like when you watch a Scientology documentary and they talk about how they hire like a PI and yeah.
And we're
so
literally,
weird.
we're like, oh, I'm glad we're not crazy in a cult. It's like, yeah. people wonder why we got to cover this stuff, but it's like, you know what? We need to expose this kind of stuff, you know, and we have to expose these kingdoms that are not built on Christ, but are built on, clearly this stuff is, we read through the cover up, it's covered up because of protecting family and cash flow. Money,
yeah.
Don't stop. So we felt like we had no other option but to reach out to a journalist. When you bring things to the light, things, get better. So that's what we did.
Absolutely. And, I really felt from the Lord that even though a lot of wrong had been done to me, that I was to stand firm in the position that God had called me to and to not walk away. Right now, Suzy and I are at an undisclosed location because we simply do not feel safe at our home. Now, please know that not only has Julie Royce been given all of the evidence and is writing a story that will be out soon, multiple national reporters have been given all of the evidence as of this afternoon. They should be reporting some stories that will be out in the news very shortly.
We never dreamed this would be our lives. We begged God for months and months that he would take it any other route, but we have to obey in the end. And if he says, you know what, you're the ones who have to speak, it's the harder road. It would have been easy to just walk away. But if he says, I'm calling you to do this, we have to do this. And it's been a challenge, but he has led us every step of the way and he has given us so much peace. So I just want to encourage you, even though things will look horrible and it looks like turmoil, God always sees the bigger picture. And as long as we obey him, we stand in the truth, we tell the truth, he will take us through. And I know he will, but we do need, and thank you for your prayers, because all that said, it has still been a hard journey. So thank you.
Yeah, it's really been a long road of suffering, and it has not been easy, but we have stayed faithful and true to what God has called us to do.
Look at all the evidence, because a lot is coming out. God has taught us a lot in these last few years, and we've had to do some very difficult things, but there's a reason God told us to have this evidence. So I really encourage you to not just go by emotions or what you hear, but to look at the evidence.
It's been a long road of suffering, but eventually God brings all things to light in his time. And after giving everyone involved much time for repentance, the time has finally come to shine the light of truth on the situation. Ephesians 5, verse 11, to take no part in the worthless deeds of evil and darkness, but instead expose them. And Matthew 10:26 says, for a time is coming when everything that is covered will be revealed, and all that is secret will be made known to all. So that's exactly what we're going to be seeing here in the next week or two as these articles come out. And I pray that God will do his cleansing work in the body of Christ, and that he is honored and glorified through a process of repentance and allowing people who have been silenced to be able to speak up and have their vindication.
And of course, our scripture, which we love, which is Revelation 12, we overcome by the blood of the Lamb.
And the word of their testimony. Amen. That is one of our life theme verses for sure. We appreciate your prayers. Thank you so much. We love you all.
First of all, they remind me at the end there of a Daystar program. Blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. they actually, I haven't seen any of their shows, so I don't know, but it's like,
well, it said in the Julie Royce article they did have a show together. Well, they did have one, together.
Well, he said he was fired on the 15th from staff, I guess, or...
Did you read the article?
You know what? I wanted to
Let's read it, because he was the vice president, and then he didn't sign an NDA, so was moved to work in the cafe. And then... I might have read that from the other article, though. I combined the two. But anyways, we'll read them both.
Yeah.
But anyways, and then so they share their story with Julie Royce. Then once Julie reaches out for a comment, to get their side at Daystar,
they find out this is happening.
Then he gets fired.
Of course. I want to actually listen to the NDA conversation that he recorded before we read the Julie Royce article.
It's in the Julie Royce article.
It is? Okay.
So
All right, gotcha. All right, cool. Let's do it then.
Okay.
Where are we at? Here it is. Okay. And,
so former Daystar. Oh, I was reading the title.
Sorry. All right. Ready, set, go.
Okay. Former Daystar executive and wife accused Joni Lamb of covering up daughter's sexual abuse.
That's bad.
Yeah. All right. On a hot August day in Florida in 2021, then Daystar TV executive Jonathan Lamb was summoned by his frightened wife, Suzy. Pete, one of their male relatives, had followed their 5-year-old daughter upstairs as the girl was going to change to go swimming. It's like Pete's eyes, he went black and he's in a zombie mode, Suzy recounted to the Royce Report in an exclusive interview. Jonathan rushed into his daughter's upstairs room at the beach house Daystar had rented for its annual executive retreat in Miramar Beach. To my horror, when I got up there, my daughter was completely NAKED. I don't know what to say. Yeah. And he was in the room.
I mean, obviously, you can read the article, but we're going to do our best to kind of censor a little bit. But you guys can kind of read the article. So.
Yeah. And I was just immediately like, what are you doing? Screaming at the top of my lungs. And he is like, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. He apologized like 50 times, like I had caught somebody red-handed.
Jeez. And even just, I just have to say, like, the, for her in hindsight to remember what his eyes looked like.
Yeah, that's creepy.
It's creepy.
Went black and
it
he
makes
looked
me,
like a zombie.
It makes me think of, it's just such a...
Hey guys, this episode is brought to you by Wake Up and Win Insurance. We help clients all over the nation with their term life, whole life, or universal life insurance, and we're definitely happy to help you with a consultation.
Check the description below for more info.
This type of thing, it's such a sickness in the soul, and it is sadly so prevalent in our society because of, I think, because of the filth that's online. And, you know, and so anyway, I just like... It just makes me sick to my stomach to hear that she sees it. But I think it's pretty amazing that she noticed something, because that's what's so psycho about these type of people is like when they're in that, whatever he's in, whatever addiction this Pete guy was in, he like literally is not thinking clearly, not even there practically. She's like, yeah, the darkness was on his eyes. And then he followed our daughter up to when she's going to go change it. It's like, clearly the man's not even thinking and realizing he's being watched. And so I'm just glad she saw it.
Yeah.
You know, anyway. Go ahead.
Suzy added that Pete was usually cocky and confident, but he was trembling and shaking on the verge of tears.
Good.
TRR is not revealing Pete's identity because he has not been charged with a crime. So we're calling him Pete. But this scandal involves Daystar, one of the world's largest Christian TV networks, which along with Trinity Broadcasting and the Christian Broadcasting Network are faith channels watched by millions around the world.
Co-founder Marcus Lamb, Jonathan's father. This is what's so wild. All of this is so crazy because Joni's remarried and they are... her and her new husband are helping cover up for this.
Well, he helped cover it up too, babe.
Oh, jeez. I know. I'm live reacting. I literally hadn't read the articles yet. Co-founder Marcus Lamb, Jonathan's father, once claimed the expansive TV network with more than 100 stations worldwide was worth $1 billion. Wow. According to Jonathan, Daystar employs 300 staff and brings in around $100 million annually. It's also headed almost exclusively by the Lamb family members. Until his untimely death on November 30th, 2021 from complications with COVID, Marcus served as president. Now his widow, Joni Lamb, is the president. Jonathan had been vice president, but he says he was demoted to manager position last April for refusing to sign an NDA. This is claim is supported by a recording of the board meeting Jonathan gave to TRR.
So real quick, his mom is the president. It's his mom, and he's the vice president. And he loses that job and is demoted because he doesn't want to sign an NDA. Like, that's so weird.
It's so insane.
Yeah.
Hey, buddy, you're the vice president.
Not buddy. Hey, son.
Yeah. Yeah.
Son, you don't get to be the vice president
sign
because
this piece of paper
you won't sign
says
an NDA
won't.
because you know. Yeah.
You know some stuff, and we don't want you to talk about some stuff because it'll hurt the family name. It'll expose the family secrets. It'll hurt the family name. And so since we're a business, let's go ahead and get you to sign this piece of paper. And Mama sends a lawyer to talk to her son like this. This is mind-blowing here.
Mother's request, we called you back in here so John could talk to you, and we'd give you 24 hours from the time we signed this. That's roughly 2:30 to 3 o'clock tomorrow. If you can sign that, come back in to Arnold's office, sign the piece of paper, okay? Read it, do you comfortable with it, and then sign the piece of paper tomorrow. You have until basically, I say 3 o'clock. That's 24 hours from the time we sign it. If you do not do that, then you are removing yourself from the board and removing yourself from your vice president position. And you are then an employee. You're still an employee. That's where we are. Now, technically, we had to pass a motion to do that because technically you were gone. You had already removed yourself from the board.
You dismissed me.
Well, because you did not do it. Technically, you removed yourself from the board.
I didn't remove
Technically,
myself.
you removed
You
yourself
dismissed
from
me.
vice president.
I like this guy because he's like, actually, no. I didn't remove myself. You guys dismissed me. He's like, no, we didn't. You chose. It's like,
it's so manipulative.
Oh my gosh.
To pretend like he's removed himself. But on top of it, the whole thing that got me was also acting like they're being so kind to him. He's
Yes.
like, oh, we actually are like, you would have been gone already, but we're actually doing this for you. We passed a motion so that you have 24 hours to sign it.
You were gone.
Yeah, it's like, we're so kind to you.
Yeah.
It's
like
annoying.
lawyer talk. Then he goes on to say, like, go pray about it, go think about it, go pray about it, and then sign this. Otherwise, you've removed yourself.
You've removed yourself.
It's like, when I took the position of vice president, I wasn't told, like, hey, eventually you'll lose your job if you don't sign a piece of paper that says you have to shut up about the truth. Like, this guy, Tom Callender, I don't know who he's, like their attorney or something.
I think you need to go back to it because I think he was just I was under the impression he was like a board member
at her. Okay, well, he's the
so
one
press
talking.
play.
Her request, we passed a motion to give you 24 hours to reconsider. Before you get your letter from Daystar telling you that's what the situation is. Now, you with me? You understand? So until 3 o'clock tomorrow, you have to go home, pray, talk, do whatever you want to, then come back into Arnold's office and read that until you're comfortable to sign it or not.
Okay, so maybe you're right. So maybe Tom Callender is the lawyer.
I think he's the lawyer.
Okay.
He's talking real good like a lawyer.
Okay.
He's like a Texas lawyer. It's funny because this is like literally in my backyard where I'm from. This is how people talk in Texas. But man, like, read it, pray about it, whatever you do, whatever you true believers do, go talk to God about it and then come back and obey us. Otherwise, we're going to put you in the cafeteria.
And if you sign it, then you're bound by it just like the rest of it. If you don't sign it, you have removed yourself from the board and removed yourself from the officer of Daystar.
I wouldn't have removed myself. That would be her decision.
I wouldn't remove myself. That would be her decision.
Okay, look, then it says, see Attorney John Lynch.
Okay. So who's Tom Callender then? I guess we'll read it and we'll read the article and see.
So play the rest of it.
That's the fact. That's the effect, I think is what he's saying. The fact of not signing.
That's the effect of you not signing it. You did.
What he said is this board didn't remove you. Your decision not to sign this is what's going to remove you.
So there's the attorney.
Gotcha. I gave Tom Callender too much clout saying he was an attorney. But yeah, so all right, let's go back to the article. Where you at? Okay, so he refused to sign it. Last Saturday, Daystar fired Jonathan ostensibly because he failed to address the deficiencies in your judgment and performance.
Do you want to click on that Daystar fired Jonathan? Because it'll be the actual letter.
Royce with the links. Nice work. Let's see. Dear Jonathan, as indicated in your performance improvement plan from April 4th, 2024, the deficiencies in your judgment and performance justified immediate termination for cause. It was provided as an alternative to termination of your employment to give you the opportunity to correct deficiencies and demonstrate your commitment to improvement. Among other things, the PIP laid out a list of 6 specific performance requirements for you to satisfy. Let's see. Okay, these performance things have to be achieved by November 15th or something. I don't know if I want to read this whole thing. I'm just trying to figure out what. Let's see.
You're reminded that the confidentiality agreement you signed
On
July 2nd, 2003.
An acknowledgement on January 30th, 2004, in the employee handbook in connection with your employment at Daystar remains in effect. Your confidentiality agreement is consistent with the one Suzy signed as well in 2011. In addition, you're reminded that any untrue or misleading statements you may make to third parties about Daystar and or its leaders are subject to defamation laws. Yeah, that's called intimidation. All right, so he and Suzy also used to host a show on Daystar called The Green Room, but Suzy was fired from that position abruptly in July 2023, Jonathan said.
Isn't that weird? She was fired. It was a show they did together, and they fired her.
That is interesting.
I feel like that'd be so awkward.
Yeah, that's weird. One of his sisters, Rachel Lamb Brown, is Daystar's director of communications, and her husband, Josh Brown is director of business development. Jonathan's other sister, Rebecca Lamb, is a producer and on-air contributor, and her husband, Jonathan J.W. Weiss, is a director of information technology. So it's a big...
There's the fam.
Happy fam. So this one is the one that does the podcast, right?
I don't know the answer.
The one that we just saw.
Oh, the one that we'll
Earlier.
show a clip to in a little bit.
Yeah. And that's her husband, Josh Brown.
No, babe.
I'm sorry. I'm just trying to.
Scroll down.
Rachel Lamb Brown. Oh, it just tells
It has
you.
them in order right there.
I got you. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so that's J.W. Weiss and Rebecca, and then Suzy Lamb John, and then who's this one?
That is Josh Brown.
And then J.W. and then Josh Brown. Okay, I got you. All right. According to Jonathan and Suzy, living and working within the Lamb dynasty came at an excruciating high price. The saga involving the couple's daughter started 8 months before the incident at the beach house. That's when the girl disclosed to Suzy that she had been molested.
Okay, so pause for a second. So 8 months before this situation we just talked about, where the relative, the person in the family, followed their 5-year-old upstairs and was in the room with her. 8 months before this, she had told her mom that something had happened to her.
8 months before
The beach trip. Where that happened.
Okay.
I'm just
I want to
clearing
follow that. So 8 months before the beach trip, she came to
her mom and said
something's
somebody's
happened.
Yeah.
This is when she was 5 that she told her mom this. Wow. Jeez. This is like painful. Suzy said her daughter told her that a man had touched her and used her own hands to indicate she'd been, you can see that it's RAPED with FINGER. It's very bad. The girl did not identify the person other than to mention a couple of physical characteristics, Suzy said. Initially, Suzy thought the perpetrator was someone at her daughter's school, but she discovered that the school didn't employ any men. As the months went by, both Jonathan and Suzy began to suspect Pete. She recalled that after a summer vacation in 2020, Pete told her that her daughter had walked in on him in the bathroom completely unclothed. They noticed their daughter became terrified to come to Daystar, where Pete worked, and once ran and hid in a corner when she saw him enter the room.
Sorry, I just feel like I need to put the pieces together.
Yeah.
Put the pieces together. Pete is on all the family vacations. Pete is a relative. So just keep that in mind, like, as you're reading all of this, because obviously his name's not Pete. We're using that not to, for the article, but he's a family member and he's on all the family vacations. I think that's like important to know. They said Pete was often with their children in Daystar's green room while they were filming their show. And once Rebecca and JW, Jonathan's sister and brother-in-law, warned them about Pete, the couple reportedly told her they saw him putting his hands all over the child and kissing her. So the other sister and brother-in-law warned them about this other family member that they saw doing this to their daughter.
They were already concerned about.
So the other brother and sister saw this happening too. Brother-in-law and sister saw this happening. Pete would also come over and play with the girl at Jonathan and Suzy's house when only her brother and a nanny were home, which Suzy said the nanny found creepy. Yes, definitely creepy. And once, Pete and his wife had the girl and the brother sleep over at their house. After that sleepover, Suzy said the daughter went from being the most affectionate, loud, fun child to quiet. Nobody could touch her physically except me. And when my husband would even come close, her body would stiffen up. That's so sad. That's going to make me cry.
Actually, very sad, right?
Yet, according to Jonathan and Suzy, Marcus and Joni consistently fought to protect Pete in Daystar's image rather than their own granddaughter. It's so sad.
Yeah, it's very sad, and I hate it. I hate it for that little girl, and I hate that Marcus and Joni consistently fought to protect Pete and Daystar's image. And this is a wake-up call, because this is on such a intense level. Like, this is such a high level of sickness. It's absolute sickness. This is such like a high level of sickness in the body of Christ that everybody can just be like aghast at this. Mm-hmm. But I just want to say that this is the fruit of the cover-up culture. This is the fruit of the covering theology. This is the fruit of don't talk bad about ministries and ministers. Don't speak ill of people. This is the fruit of that whole idea, because what we're seeing is that is Jonathan and Suzy currently in hiding
from their own family.
From their own What is this? The mob? It literally reminds me of people talk about, when IHOP happened, IHOP KC, they said the Bickle Mafia. Like, what are we looking at? The Lamb Mafia? And it's very sad because Marcus had left a legacy. Now he is gone. And it's very sad that this is coming out, because you think about like Ravi Zacharias, and what Ravi did was so terrible, and all the infidelity and the SA that was found after he died. And with Marcus, there's no sign of that, but there's a sign of him protecting an abuser.
And not standing up for his own granddaughter. That the part is like so wild to me. Like, you hear of all these pastors who like protect, the other pastors and like shame the victims and all this stuff. But like, this was his family. This was his granddaughter.
And what he's doing, and I guess it gets into this later, but what he's doing is protecting his other, it looks like, is what it's somebody that's on the trip. So you can deduce, allegedly.
I was going to say that.
Allegedly, you can deduce that it's a family member. And so he's protecting another family member from what? From being caught doing illegal activities. It's like, this is where the same type of thing we saw in IHOP Kansas City, and we see at all these churches, where these stories come to boards of elders and they say, well, we'll put them under discipline. Mm-hmm. Like, no, call the police, bro. And
it just feels like no matter what, it's always wrong. It's always bad, all this stuff. But like, if that is your granddaughter, you should be ready to like
throw hands.
Yeah.
Throw hands and pick up the phone.
Like, what happened to like wanting to protect this image that's like more important?
It was money.
It's just
and in power, actually. It was fame, because I honestly think it was like money, but like clearly they had so much money it wouldn't even affect them. But like, it was power. It was that power in that kingdom, Daystar kingdom, the Lamb kingdom, and the Lamb legacy. And that's that whole thing of the legacy.
The legacy, yeah.
I loved Mike Tyson's little interview where he said that little girl, I mean, it went viral because like, Mike Tyson forgot he was talking to a young little girl in this interview, because she said, what do you want people to think of your legacy? He goes, legacy's a stupid word. I don't believe in legacy. When I'm dead, nobody cares about me. When I'm dead, I don't fully agree, like, in the sense, but I did like the fact that what he was saying was that it's like, Mike Bickle is all about his legacy. Mm-hmm. Marcus Lamb was all about his legacy. All these guys are about their legacy. That's why they protect the lies to the end, hoping they can like be shielded from the truth, the light of truth coming and destroying their it's like, what good is a legacy if you are protecting CSA in your own family? Like, it's not like before God in heaven, it's an absolute sickness. It's like, you can gain the whole world and destroy a child's soul, and you gain nothing. Anyway, let's keep reading. All right, where were we at here? Okay, to this day, their daughter disclosed, the day their daughter disclosed the alleged abuse, Suzy said she immediately called Joni, who urged Suzy not to go to the police. Of course, but said, bring the girl to me.
She was 5, and She didn't want her to go to the police. That's so messed up.
Joni probably won't listen to this, but if she does, Joni, like, what are you talking about?
That's actually like illegal.
Yeah, it's illegal. It's covering. It's covering for an illegal activity because you didn't want somebody to be exposed. Like, what are you going to do? You're going to fix the kid? You think you're going to fix? No, you're going to come. What are you going to do? What was the whole goal there? Well, I'll counsel her and help her, or I'll convince her it didn't really happen, or I'll just tell her to be silent. Mm-hmm. What was the goal there? Who knows? I don't know what happened there.
Wait, no. Look, after meeting one-on-one with Joni, the girl stopped talking about what had happened, Suzy and John said. So, yeah, that is exactly what happened.
Congratulations,
she stopped talking
Joni.
about it.
It worked.
It said, let's see. I don't know what happened there, Suzy said, but she was like a lockbox.
Of course.
She doesn't remember one thing, Jonathan added. She doesn't even remember having that conversation. It's like it never happened.
It's freaking Christian witchcraft.
I would be so mad.
It's Christian witchcraft. It's manipulation and Christian witchcraft. That's what happened with Joni Lamb. Like you bring a child in that's experienced this, and then when they come out of that, they no longer talk to their parents about what they had disclosed prior. That's sick. That's absolutely sick. What did you say? What did you do to that kid? What did you threaten? What did you pray? Well, who did you pray to? Like, I think that there was something working there that was like not godly at all. It sounds like mind control. It sounds like witchcraft. It sounds like threats. It sounds terrible. She doesn't remember one thing. Texas law requires anyone suspecting a child has been abused to report it to authorities. That's the Texas law. So, yeah.
So
thank God. Thank God.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think in the body of Christ, there's so much crap that's gone on. And Paul the Apostle literally tells us that we should not have to go to court against each other. He's like, is there not anybody wise among you that can deal with these things and handle these things? The fact of the matter is, the answer is no. We literally have our own leaders, the top of the food chain, Joni Lamb, the king of the mountain after her husband died. And they bring it to her, and she silences it. Congratulations. So because of that, yeah, we got to go to the law. We got to go to court because the body of Christ doesn't have the ability to help people think through these things in a proper manner or deal with this stuff in a way that's like truly going to hold people accountable. Instead, it's like, well, let's just keep you silent and let this guy kind of go free. How many other children did this guy do this to? How many other kids did he do this to while y'all were covering up for him? Insane. Jonathan and Suzy reported their suspicion to the police, but said they kept it secret from their family. Because their daughter wouldn't talk about it, police closed the case. Later, it was reopened. Then on August 30th, 2021, when Jonathan caught Pete alone. So later.
This was the beach trip.
Oh, okay. But this is like, okay. But this had all happened before the beach trip, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like meeting with her, and Joni shut the girl down. Mm-hmm. And then Jonathan caught Pete alone in a room with his daughter unclothed. The couple went to Marcus and Joni hoping they'd do something, but almost immediately the elder lambs declared Pete innocent, Jonathan Suzy said. Marcus and Joni justified Pete's presence in the girl's room by saying Pete loved her and simply wanted to hang out with her. What? Is that what happens? Like, is that what grandparents would say? Are they what's in their closet? I mean, I'm not even kidding. Like, what kind of people are they? Can you imagine?
And that's so sad because it's like, you're a parent, that happens to your child, and who are you going to go to? Who are you going to talk to? Because obviously, like, you want to go to your parents. You want to tell your parents.
Yeah. It sucks when your parents, who are supposed to have the moral authority in a situation, completely are blinded by deception. It sucks. And I'm proud of these kids. When I say these kids, I mean, they're probably our age, but they're probably younger. But Jonathan and Suzy, I'm proud of them for stepping up, because sometimes, and you know, this is where the whole, like, I'm sure Jonathan has heard the Absalom talk. You know, David was king and Absalom came in to take his throne and all this stuff. I'm sure he's heard those things. I'm sure he's heard like, oh, you're like Ham, uncovering the sin of your fathers, the sin of your family, the sin of your parents or whatever. You're like all the different scriptures that are used in these situations when a son or a daughter has to do what the parent should have done.
Right.
And it's unfortunate and it shouldn't be necessary. But the fact is, when you abdicate your spiritual integrity and spiritual authority by covering for sin and illegal activity here, then God has to nudge somebody else to say, well, go ahead and step up. This is unfortunate, but you're going to have to confront your parents and the whole family. And I'm proud of them for doing that. And also, I just have to say, I think any normal, healthy person would say Marcus and Joni justified Pete's presence in the girl's room when she was unclothed. They justified it by saying, well, he loved her.
Listen, there's more. Hang on. Okay. Let's read this next part. Suzy added that when she strongly objected, saying that didn't explain why Pete was in the room with her NAKED daughter. Joni blamed the couple's daughter, saying she was the one who took her clothes off. The 5-year-old.
You're sick.
She blamed the 5-year-old.
I'm done.
She blamed
this
the 5-year-old.
This woman, okay, for all the people out there giving money to Marcus and Joni Lamb for years, go request a refund. This couple, this person, this lady needs to be, this is sick. You're going to blame a 5-year-old? Are you
Your
kidding me? Your
5-year-old granddaughter.
What on God's green earth are you thinking? Like,
at this, Suzy said she began screaming, rightfully so, at her mother-in-law. But Joni was adamant and reiterated her claims several times over the next 24 hours. At one point, Marcus and Joni gathered Jonathan and Suzy with Pete and his wife in Marcus and Joni's bedroom and insisted that they repent to each other and pray, Suzy said. Then Rebecca and JW, who has been barred, the other daughter, who they had been barred from the room. So there's like family meeting in here because this is some major family drama. The other sister and brother-in-law are not allowed in the room, but they insisted on being included. And Suzy added, so Rebecca was angry, Suzy said, and began praying in tongues, like in war mode. Said she was in shock by what was happening. She's the sister that originally warned them about the other.
Oh, the one that was excluded.
She was excluded. She wasn't allowed in the family meeting, probably to protect the other people. Yeah. But it's just so crazy. It's like you're sitting here trying to have like a family private meeting, like, and then your sister like barges in and starts speaking in tongues. We all have that sister, you know.
Hey, it's true. I actually have that sister. She's awesome. Who had been barred from barging in. Okay.
Speaking in tongues.
War mode. I've been in that mode. Let's go.
So then later in the day, Suzy and Rebecca confronted her dad. Okay, so Suzy said, Suzy said, Rebecca, so the other sister confronted her dad saying, why are you doing this to us? Why aren't you doing what's right? So she knew it was wrong. Suzy said Marcus responded because of Pete's wife and their child. So he wanted to protect the wife of the abuser and their child, not the
one that was actually
grandchild who needed.
What he's saying is this man who did this has a wife and a child, and if he is outed, then he has to go to prison. So to protect him from going to prison and his wife from losing him and his daughter from losing a dad, we're going to cover that up, and instead we're going to punish this little girl for being abused by him and punish these parents and just let them all stay around each other. And think that makes any sense at all is insane. Now, the other sad part is if this man did that to this little girl and he has a little girl in his own house, and that little girl has friends, I'm concerned. Yeah. And Marcus and Joni should have been too, but clearly they lacked all discernment and critical thinking skills because they were blinded by their own fame and desire for legacy and desire to not taint the family name. If this guy goes to prison, that's a problem for the Lamb kingdom. Ugh. This one is sick. Looking at this, look at what you're doing to this family. That night, when Suzy insisted their kids sleep in the room next to them instead of upstairs, Joni confronted her, saying, "Look at what you're doing to this family. What about Pete's wife and Pete? What about their feelings?" So basically, Suzy's saying, this is weird. I don't want our kids to
I want
sleep
my
close
kids
to
near
us.
me.
And
I don't
then
want them
Joni's like,
upstairs.
no, let them be around Pete.
That is so weird. It's totally normal for you to want your kids to be close to you whenever you're in a house with other people. Especially after that happened, I'd be like, you're sleeping in the bed with me. But also, who cares about Pete's feelings? Who cares? Like, I cannot believe that she's like, look at what you're doing to this family. What about Pete's feelings? He is a grown man. Like,
I'm telling you, if Pete was at all, like the fact that they said, and earlier in the article they said, well, Pete just loves her and likes to be around her. No, Pete's a pervert. Okay, Pete's a pervert, and like, look, I'm a 42-year-old man. We have children, and our children have friends, and there's cousins. Anytime there's anything that could be inappropriate, what you do as a 42-year-old man or a 35-year-old man is you walk away. You turn around. You walk to a different room. Like, you don't go, oh, that's cute. Let's just hang out because I love this kid. It's like, that's called perversion. That's even any respectable man knows. You walk out of the room. You turn your head. You respect the parents of the other child. If some child walks in the room, you send them out, or you walk out, or you don't be... And then you don't make an excuse like this as the grandparents. Well, he just loves them. I don't know. It's just, yeah. Let's keep going.
Okay, the next day, while Jonathan, Suzy, Rebecca, JW, Marcus, and Joni were gathered in the kitchen, Joni claimed that God had told her while she was praying that Pete was innocent.
Who were you praying to? What God were you praying to?
Can you imagine this happening to your daughter and then you being in there and your mom being like, well, I prayed about it and God told me that he's innocent.
I know I know what. There was a God that told her that. Yeah.
Listen to this,
the same
though.
God that gave her the wisdom to say that you just don't bring this stuff to light. It's a different God altogether.
Listen to this. Then Jonathan and Suzy said, at this, Marcus reportedly clapped his hands in joy, and the rest stood dumbfounded. So basically, the mom's like, God told me that he was innocent, and then the dad's like, well, great, this is great news, everyone. Like, what is going on?
It's like the level of deception.
It's like a show for your own kids. It's literally like a show to pretend like everything's okay.
Daystar responded with a written statement which said in part, there's clearly a misunderstanding of what transpired, and the facts are quite different than what appears to have been reported to you. We simply do not support Jonathan and Suzy's false allegations and are saddened by the continued relational incongruity between Jonathan and Suzy and the rest of the family. Yeah, that's what happens when you call out sin in a ministry or in a family. You get excluded, and everybody else is like, we're all okay, including Pete. Pete can hang around. Oh, you know what? Let's make him the children's pastor. Oh, he's good. He's been restored. Similarly, TRR reached out to Pete, whose lawyer, Mark G. Daniels, sent a letter. Of course Pete didn't talk. Pete sent his lawyer. It stated, my client unequivocally denies the statements made by Jonathan and Suzy Lamb, alleging that he engaged in some form of improper contact with any child. Anyone who knows the client knows that these statements are false, insinuating, and demeaning. TRR also contacted Rebecca and JW to discuss the details in the article. See, one thing that sticks out to me, Christina, is that like it said Pete is usually very strong and opinionated and like very strong-willed. And Suzy said when we walked in on him, or Jonathan said, did Jonathan walk in or Suzy walk in?
Jonathan did.
When Jonathan and Suzy basically said when they walked in, he was very like, he cowered.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
That is, if you watch any of these
Guilty.
Sting videos,
yeah,
like these PEDO Sting videos where people are like set up and then caught because they're messaging a teenager, they turn into a worm. There's literally, they can be the biggest, toughest dude, but as soon as they're caught, they turn into like, it's because that spirit, I'll just spiritualize it here for a second, because of course they've become completely perverted in their mind, but they're emboldened by this spirit of perversion and lust. And when they're caught, they're completely ashamed, and they're desperate. It's like the one story of that pastor that borrowed the phone from the girl. You know, it was in the Roy's report where he borrowed the phone from the girl's husband and said, "Let me download this Audible book for you." And he's holding the phone for like a half hour. And then the girl's husband, or the man's wife, walks in the room, sees a picture of herself on his phone. And he had airdropped himself all these photos from the husband's phone when he had it. And as soon as he got caught, he went, "I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry." You're like, you lower your shoulders, you like cower, you get fearful. It's because you're caught. You're caught, and you can't, like, you're desperate. And so anyway, anyone who knows the client, TRR contacted Rebecca and JW to discuss the details in the article. So that's the other brother and sister. The couple chatted briefly with TRR and said they would consider going on the record. After 3 days and no contact from the couple, TRR reached out via email with them, but they did not reply.
They did not reply. I want to talk about this part.
Go.
I want to talk about this part.
There's a video.
So that's what I was going to say. So it's wild because I have actually hadn't, you know, I didn't watch Daystar, and I haven't even heard of the Lambs. But I saw this video come out this end of the summer. You want to pull it up? And it was this girl, Rebecca. Do you have it?
Your phone. Let's see. Because it's on.
Oh, I thought I did send it to you.
Oh, you sent it in. Oh, yeah, you did. You did. You sent it in a text. Let's pull that up. Hang on.
Okay. Do not.
Yeah, hang on. Let's see. And who is it? This is just for context. So she runs a show or something. Is that right? She also runs a podcast. Is that what?
I honestly don't know. Okay. But what I'm saying is there was a clip going around that people were talking about.
Like months ago, this clip was going around. I remember.
Yeah.
And it's based.
So this is from August 29th. So let's watch this clip. And
so
this is as I was
yes,
exactly. As I was reading the story, I was like, this is why she's not going to go on the record with Julie Royce. This is why she's not going to blow the whistle and for her own niece.
Yeah.
So play this video real quick.
People think it's their job to uncover leadership or try to deal with someone, and the truth of the matter is that God has placed them over you. You're under them. You're not above them. And if you try to come in and try to take them out, that's not honoring, and that's not how God's kingdom works.
To a younger leader serving
No, watch the whole thing though.
an unworthy leader, I would say you don't have to stay in and serve someone who's unworthy or involved in something. You sense something's happening here you shouldn't be part of. Leave. You just don't get to roll a hand grenade in the door as you go out. Serve like a Christian, leave like a Christian.
People think it's their job.
So, I mean, this is assumptions, but I'm assuming she doesn't want to throw a grenade, you know? But this deserves to have a grenade thrown in it. This deserves that. Like, so anyways, it's this whole idea of, you know, the covering theology and honor culture. And obviously these are her parents too. So it's like double honor. It's like not just her like spiritual authority boss pastor-ish thing.
It gets really intense.
It's her parents. Yeah. So it's like, of course it makes sense. But right now to her, I would just say, which obviously she knows because she warned her sibling about this guy. So she knew he was sketchy. She knew. So I think she probably has something to add to the story. And I would just encourage her, like, this is your niece. You're her auntie. Like, do the right thing. Speak up for her. Like, help out your brother and sister-in-law because you know, and that is not dishonoring. They have already dishonored themselves.
They did the dishonoring, Rebecca.
Yeah.
You need to speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves. Do justly. That's Proverbs 31. Speak for those who cannot speak. You know why that your little niece can't speak? She was silenced by your mother. All right. So let's move on to, where's it at? Marcus claims Pete is cleared, but was he? All right, you want to read it?
The following week, Marcus and Joni sent Jonathan and Suzy to North Carolina with their daughter to meet with the author and speaker Denise Boggs, founder of a healing ministry called Living Waters. Suzy said the impetus, oh gosh, I don't want to read this part. Impetus, is that right?
I think so, yeah. That's it. Yeah.
For sending them away was a verse she posted on Instagram about it being better to be drowned in the sea than to cause one of these little ones to stumble. Suzy said the post caused Joni to believe she was volatile. So, did I say that word wrong too?
No. I'm laughing because I'm like, I think we're both like.
Well, I'm like, you posted something. You posted a Bible verse, and she sends you to a healing retreat.
Yeah, who needs to go to a healing retreat? Pete needs to go to
prison
healing healing retreat.
Pete's healing retreat.
Prison healing retreat.
Prison healing retreat.
Yeah. I mean, I hate to make light of prison for Pete, but I mean, allegedly, Pete did some very bad things. And the consequences for those bad things, in most cases, where you're not covered up under a religious structure with millions of dollars and lots of power and control and family situations, usually it would be prison. So anyway, and the fact that she posted the words of Jesus.
Yeah, and then they send her on a healing retreat. It's like,
oh, I'm posting a Bible verse in the words of Jesus, and you want to send me on a healing retreat and call me volatile? That sounds like Jesus is volatile. Jesus needed a healing retreat. I'm really, God bless, this is a Southern thing to say, God bless Joni Lamb, but I am angry at Joni. I'm actually very annoyed with Joni Lamb, and sadly, with what Marcus did as well. Marcus is gone, but man, I would not want to carry that to the judgment seat.
Boggs was a trusted friend of the Lamb family, whom Marcus and Joni had previously brought in to try and help resolve personal conflicts between Lamb family members. After learning about the situation, Boggs, who's not a licensed counselor, brought in Debbie Leonhardt, a licensed forensic counselor, to interview Jonathan and Suzy and their daughter and assess whether the girl had likely been assaulted. Boggs declined to comment on this on the record for the story, but Leonhardt spoke with TRR and said the couple's daughter had already shut down by the time she saw her and wouldn't talk. Leonhardt told TRR that this response is very common among CSA victims, especially if they've been sworn to secrecy.
Yeah, that's what happens when you get met with by the kingpin of a multi-million-dollar ministry or billion-dollar ministry. I can't remember which one it was.
Said billion, yeah.
Billion-dollar ministry, and you get met with by the kingpin who happens to be your grandmother, and you're told to be quiet. I can't. This needs to not go away.
Yeah.
For like new hashtag. Daystar Dynasty done.
Yeah.
Daystar Dynasty done. All right.
Based on what Jonathan and Suzy told her, Leonhardt said she told the couple the alleged abuse needed to be explored further and urged them to get their daughter to a counselor in their home state of Texas. Suzy said their daughter was so traumatized and scared by what she'd experienced at the beach house, she wouldn't leave her side. So the couple decided to wait a while before attempting counseling.
On August 10th, 2021, the same day Jonathan and Suzy met with Leonhardt, Marcus emailed his 3 children and their spouses, as well as Daystar CFO Arnold Torres. The email outlined a succession plan if Marcus should die. Jonathan said that prior to his time, Marcus and Joni had communicated to the whole family that Jonathan would succeed his father as Daystar president, but the email stated that Joni would replace Marcus as president instead. Jonathan said the change was punishment for accusing people. Of course it was. Of course it was. Mm-hmm. Of course. Because he had the strength to stand up and do the right thing. There was financial punishment to him. But I just literally think of Marcus Lamb, and I'm like, you just don't know what's going on. When you look at these guys on TV and they're doing their thing and all the money's flowing in, and of course we can it's like that Tucker Carlson clip that we watched where he's like, that whole situation, and he was like, yeah, I don't trust Christian pastors. Mm-hmm. He's like, I decided to read the Bible by myself for a year and a half. I don't trust any Christian pastors. Yeah. I'm like, I wonder why. Mm-hmm. Because you get this guy, like imagine meeting with Marcus Lamb and thinking that he's just this godly man and all this stuff. It's like godly, godliness is compartmentalized in these guys' lives. It's like when it comes to these areas, okay, but when it comes to this situation, it's like suddenly this guy's healthy as a horse, and suddenly COVID hits, and then he is on his deathbed, and now he's thinking, and instead of repenting and being like, you know what, we need to out this situation here, he's going, I'm going to change the ownership and succession plan because Jonathan stood up to me when we should have covered up for Pete. It's just mind-blowing. Okay, so there can only be one leader, Marcus wrote. Either you trust me as God's leader or you don't.
Hold on 1 second, just to be clear.
Yeah.
I don't think that he was on his deathbed.
No, I'm just saying that.
Okay, just making sure whenever he wrote the email, he wasn't. No. Yeah, okay, just make sure you didn't think he was like sick with COVID and wrote the email about it. It was before he got sick.
I got you.
But yeah, just to clarify that.
But regardless, it could have been changed.
Yeah, totally. But he changed it.
In August of 2021, and he died in November of 2021. He died like in 2021.
Totally, yeah.
There's only 4 months left when he wrote this before his death, or like 2 months left or something. It was like sudden.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just how crazy life is too. You're just like this. I mean, Joni and Marcus, I don't know how old he was, but maybe he's 60, maybe he's 55, maybe he's 60. I don't know. But like, he's not like this really old guy. And he's living his life, billions of dollars or millions of dollars coming in his hands, probably in ministry, all this impact, all this awesomeness in his mind, and untouchable. And then suddenly, boom, and his life is taken, and he's standing before the throne, and he covered for the abuse of his grandchild in order to protect his legacy. And God, the judge, Jesus, the judge, literally could care less about your financial and your ministry legacy on earth when you literally did not even care for the least of these that had no voice. Instead, you stood up for your name and your ministry name to protect Pete, which I don't even think he cared about Pete so much. I think he cared
himself
about the
and
Dynasty
his
name.
Yeah.
He wasn't expecting to be gone that next year.
It totally reminds me, and I've already brought this up one time, not today, but on this podcast, whenever we've talked about that one book, Imagine Heaven, whenever it gets to heaven, and it's like,
I've been thinking about that the whole time.
Yeah. He's like, I just can't imagine. Like, it doesn't matter what you built. Nobody cares about your $1 billion ministry or $1 billion show or whatever it is. Nobody cares about all your shows. It's like and when I say nobody, I mean Jesus doesn't care about that. But you couldn't even protect your own granddaughter. You couldn't even. Yeah, it's just so messed up. That story
in the Imagine Heaven book is
exactly that. It's about building something massive and not even knowing about your own kids, life. Yeah.
He said to him, Jesus said to that man who expected to be talked to about all of his huge businesses, and Jesus said to him, what's your daughter's best friend's name? And he was embarrassed because he could not answer Jesus on that. And it's like the things that mattered to Marcus Lamb in that moment, his dynasty, his legacy, his name, his ministry, and literally it's this little girl that mattered. This little girl is what mattered. I can't claim to know what Jesus is talking to Marcus Lamb about at the judgment seat, but all I can say is it's a fearful thing to fall in the hands of a loving Christ that's passionate enough to care about the least of these. And do not claim to be teachers, dear brothers. Do not assume, because you will be judged more harshly. This is not a good thing that we're seeing here. And Joni needs to repent. Joni needs to repent. This is bad. And Rebecca Lamb needs to repent of coming under a false covering theology that literally has led her to silence the least of these. Listen, I want to just say something about that clip that she said about the leadership, the covering, the exposure, all that stuff. Let's just go to church history. Do you think that John Wesley did the right thing by getting kicked out of a church because he was preaching the gospel in a way that didn't conform to his covering and leadership? Do you think he did the wrong thing by standing in the field outside the church and preaching the gospel and everybody showing up in the field and saying that these people are wrong, but I'm going to preach the gospel out here anyway? Do you think that was wrong, Rebecca? You submitting yourself to this idea of covering for your family members, covering for the ministry leaders, covering for these people at the head honchos at the top is absolutely false when it does not fall into line with integrity and righteousness. Yes, we honor authority. We honor people in positions of authority, but honoring authority does not mean we cover for unrighteousness. and it's wrong and it's evil, and you actually should repent, and you should speak your story of what you know. And if you don't, you're going to regret it. And that's not a threat. I'm saying you'll regret it because the truth is all going to come out anyway. So you get to decide what part of history you want to be on in this moment. And when your niece grows up, she'll remember this moment, and she'll know the people that spoke up for her that weren't even in her family when you had the shot to do it.
Yeah.
All right, where were we at here? Punishment for accusing Pete. Let's see.
Oh, no, this part's good. I do want to read this.
Go for it.
His children and their spouses. Okay, so Marcus emailed his children and their spouses again, this time to express his distress over the fractures in our family. He also warned them in no uncertain terms to stop playing judge, jury, or executioner, emphasis in the original email, and to trust his leadership or face the consequences. There can only be one leader, Marcus wrote. Either you trust me as God's leader or you don't.
Who does that sound like?
Rick Joyner.
Rick Joyner.
Literally
It's
word for word.
It's all the same stuff.
You either trust me or you don't.
This is what Rick Joyner said to Catherine and Catherine's mom when Catherine had been essayed by Chris Reed, and Rick said it's okay for Chris to still be in leadership. He said, you either trust me or you don't.
Hey guys, this episode is brought to you by Wake Up and Win Insurance. We help clients all over the nation with their term life, whole life, or universal life insurance, and we're definitely happy to help you with a consultation.
Check the description below for more info. Yeah. And okay, your mother and I built Daystar without you, and we can run it without you. That would break my heart, but there are consequences for actions and attitudes.
Yes, there are consequences for actions and attitudes. Correct.
Don't doubt my resolve. Don't question my determination. So I just can't handle this up here at the top that he messaged his kids about his distress over the fractures in our family. It's all about him, and this is like so manipulative and so annoying. But it's
reminiscent
like,
of many other things.
Yeah, it's like his distress. Oh, you think you're the one distressed? Like, give me a break. You're the one that could fix this and do something about it. But instead, you're going to put it on the entire family, and then make it all like their fault that the family's falling apart. It's ridiculous.
It's absolutely ridiculous. And a father or a ministry leader that goes to the family and it says they're distressed because someone had the guts to speak up for doing the right thing and exposing the wrong thing, and that causes fracture. Well, guess what? Jesus said, many think I came to bring peace. Guess what? I didn't come to bring peace. I came to bring a sword. I don't know where this verse is, but Jesus says, I came to bring a sword, not peace. And so you think I came to bring peace, but I came to bring a sword. And so the truth, Jesus says, I am the way, I am the truth, and I am the life. And so Jesus's truth exposes, and when it exposes, it brings division. And that division is based on soul and spirit. Soul meaning my attitudes, emotions, and my thoughts, and my feelings, and my this. And spirit being truth. What's the Holy Spirit seeing? The Holy Spirit saw that situation at the beach house. The Holy Spirit sees what's going on behind the scenes of this ministry. The Holy Spirit sees, and he's the judge. And when the truth is spoken and fractures come from that truth, like people say, Paul said, get rid of the divisive person. So Jonathan Lamb must be divisive. No, actually, no. The problem is that Pete was divisive by destroying the life and family with his actions. And instead of confronting the divisive person and removing them, you protected the divisive person and the person that carried a sword of truth with their words and their... Frankly, guys, I mean, Marcus is not here to hear this, but Joni is. Frankly, Jonathan and Suzy had the boldness and audacity to value truth and integrity in their daughter more than a ministry and success, financial success, and being the heir of a kingdom on this earth. And so any family member that has the guts to speak up in these type of situations or ministry, we saw this with IHOP. These people that spoke out and lost the entire ministry of IHOP because they spoke out and they lost all their friends, but they valued truth and the spirit more than the soul and the affections that are the feelings. And I am so distressed. It's like, you're distressed. What do you think about the victims of these crimes? You think they're not distressed? You think they're not going to live a life of distress? Anyway. All right, where's it at? Okay. Yeah, this email. I mean, it's so crazy reading this email after he's gone.
Yeah.
It's just so crazy. Like, I wonder what he would change. You know, it's too late to change, but I wonder what he would change. I wonder what Joni would change if she could think about this in light of eternity. But see, the problem is this theology of covering and protection and don't expose. You know, it's like, oh, it'll make God look bad. No, this what you did behind the scenes. It's not like exposing the truth is going to make God look bad. No, it's going to make these people in your midst look bad. And then you guys doing the right thing would actually make Jesus be shown as right, standing up for the victim. It's like, sorry, I'm just on a preach here, but the email ends with an assignment for his family to make a written list of every hurt, every slight, and every bad word or deed that has happened to you by a family member. Include your mother or me if it is warranted. Then we can deal with it when Denise Boggs comes. I'm going to let you keep reading here.
All right. Boggs didn't visit Daystar. Instead, Pete and his wife flew to North Carolina to interview with Leonhardt, a meeting Leonhardt said Boggs had coordinated with Marcus and Joni. Leonhardt said the meeting was arranged so she could provide an assessment of whether the allegations against Pete seemed valid.
Okay, so who was there? Just Pete and his wife?
Yeah, Pete and his wife. So listen to this. Assessments, which are often presented in criminal trials or sentencing, normally include thorough clinical interviews with subjects and sometimes psychological tests. However, Leonhardt said she wasn't able to interview Pete. She said Pete's wife insisted on being present for the interview and answered all the questions intended for her husband.
Babe.
I know. He didn't even answer the questions.
Are you kidding me?
It's
Is this
ridiculous.
a joke?
As a result, Leonhardt said she told Boggs that Pete would have to return for an interview before she could offer an assessment, but Pete never came back. TR also obtained a recording between Jonathan and Suzy Lamb and Boggs in which Boggs discusses why the process ended before Leonhardt could offer an assessment. I remember when Marcus and Joni said, "We want to drop everything. Just drop everything, okay?" Boggs said. And so I had told Debbie, they just want to drop everything. I don't want anything more to be written and documented on this. And so that was what Joni had said.
What does that mean, drop everything? They just stop, just leave it alone, basically?
I think so, yeah.
I remember when Marcus and Joni said we want to, okay.
Yeah, because those are the parents. They just want to drop everything.
The discussion between Jonathan, Suzy, and
They didn't want
Boggs.
anything more to be written and documented. Yeah.
Well, too late for that. Took place on November 18th, 2023. But before then, Jonathan and Suzy said they didn't know what happened during Leonhardt's interview with Pete. They only knew what Marcus and Joni had told them. So the discussion between Jonathan, Suzy, and Boggs, so they didn't know that Pete didn't answer the questions.
Right.
On August 25th, 2021, Jonathan said Marcus summoned and JW into Marcus's office. Marcus then told them that Leonhardt had investigated the allegations against Pete and determined that Pete had not done this. And to Jonathan and Suzy's daughter, so you mean Leonhardt did this investigation and assessment, and Pete's wife answered all the questions for him, and then Pete never came back, and then Marcus said, well, that's good enough, and then lied. He lied.
Yeah.
Babe. You know, I'm 42 years old. I was in ministry full-time for almost 15 years, and something in me wants to believe that maybe all these guys aren't a bunch of frauds and liars. And I'm like, and you might go, oh, Blaise, well, duh, we all know they're frauds and liars. No, you don't. You don't know who is and who isn't. Just because somebody is making a ton of money and all that doesn't mean they're frauds and liars. That's not how this works. Sadly, it's this stuff that shows that when it's proven and you see it, that's what proves that these guys are frauds and liars. But you might go, oh, you're just too innocent-hearted to just believe that there could be some good in these. No, I just want to believe that there's a calling on men of God and women of God that are going to keep their integrity regardless of what comes, regardless of the fame or fortune or any of that. I just want to believe that there's men that love Jesus regardless of the situation, that stand for truth regardless. But when I see these things left and right, it's so disheartening. But I'll tell you one thing, it doesn't make me stop believing in Jesus. It doesn't make me stop believing that there are good ones out there, and it doesn't make me at all desire that type of position. Like, pastoral leadership in eternity's perspective has nothing to do with the numbers of coming through your bank account because of your ministry, nor the number of souls impacted by your radio station or podcast or whatever. It has nothing to do with that. Pastoral leadership has to do with taking care of those that God has entrusted to you, specifically first in your family. That is literally what Paul the Apostle said. And Marcus did not take care of his own granddaughter, the least of these in this situation, nor did he take care of Pete's wife, which it looks like it's possible, allegedly, could have been his own daughter. He didn't take care of her. He didn't take care of any of the family because he's not confronting the actual pervert. You can read. Sorry.
He added that Marcus warned Jonathan and JW that if either of them continued to believe that Pete was a, can I say that word? PEDO, they'd need to find another job. TR specifically asked JW in an email to confirm what transpired in the August 25th meeting between him, Marcus, and Jonathan, but JW did not respond to the question.
JW is Rebecca's husband.
Yes, JW, this is your time to shine.
This is your time, JW. It's not too late,
You
JW.
can do the right thing. Yeah, it is not too late. Jonathan said that after that meeting, he felt like he had no choice but to submit to Marcus's directive. Just 3 months later, Marcus died unexpectedly, and Jonathan spent the next year sorting through his mother's financial affairs and taking care of her, Suzy said. Meanwhile, Suzy said she became depressed, just like a zombie, operating somehow. Daystar allegations.
This is so heartbreaking.
It is. It's a lot. It's a lot all happening. Daystar allegations proven false. In Daystar's statement released to TRR yesterday, the ministry likewise cited a 2021 investigation that allegedly settled the matter. There was an internal investigation about the matter you referenced when it was first raised. Always an internal.
It's always
one.
internal. You don't want a third party because then
internal investigation always comes out in your favor.
Joni, Rebecca, all of you, whoever Joni's husband is at this point in time, the therapist. Hey, why don't you get a third party to come in, a non-biased third party to come in and do a third party investigation? And why don't y'all fund it with your $1 billion ministry? Because I know you love the truth. I know you love the truth more than you love your stuff, right? Why don't you get a third party?
Which concluded with no wrongdoing found nor evidence provided that corroborated the allegations. The statement said, apologies were offered and reciprocal forgiveness was extended by all involved. Everyone, including Suzy and Jonathan, believed that the matter had been appropriately addressed and settled.
Oh, clearly.
It's unfortunate these private family matters have just now resurfaced as these allegations were proven false, and the matter was resolved more than 3 years ago, after which family functions, including holiday gatherings, continued for several more years. I don't like how they do this, which they did this in the, I think his lawyer, I don't think we pulled up the email from Pete's lawyer, but did the same thing, was like, well, after these allegations, then you still went on family vacations. You still went to holidays. You still did all this stuff. And it's like, I am sure that in their head, it's one of those things that you're like, trying to convince your own self that it didn't happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Of course you want it to be a false accusation. This is your 5-year-old. So of course you're going to be like, okay, they're saying this didn't happen. Is it maybe I'm crazy? This is maybe you're being gaslit.
Yes.
You know, it's like, maybe I'm crazy. Maybe this didn't happen.
Yes.
They're good people. Like I'm imagining this. So let's move on with our life. Mom said God told her it didn't happen.
And we trust Mom. She's a prophet.
Let's just go with this. And so, yeah, I mean, that doesn't mean that it didn't happen. That means that they were in a crazy, crazy place and state of mind and family and like environment overall, that doesn't mean it didn't happen just because they still went to Christmas with you, you know?
Yes, and yes. If you are the victim of CSA or if you're the victim of SA in any form, you often will be confused about that situation, how it happened, if it was your fault, if it really did happen, you'll be convinced that it didn't in some ways, or that it was your fault. And of course, and especially if it was somebody in a family group or friend group, you will still show up around that. You will still be around that person, and you'll always think, was that me? That was weird? Was that my fault? Maybe this didn't happen. And especially if you're the parent or friend or somebody of a child that knows that something like that may have happened, but then it's all denied, you're confused. And so you're just like, so just the proof that it didn't happen is not, well, they still showed up to family gatherings. What do you think they want out of you guys? You think they want your billions of dollars? He had that. Jonathan and Suzy had it at their fingertips. And instead, because they were the heir of the throne, they were the heir of the dynasty, of the Daystar dynasty. They had it all. So you think that they came out with these allegations to go get a bunch of money? It's like, no, they literally were in the position to, they could have just been like, let's cover these allegations and then we can just stick with our position and we can make good money for the future.
Well, that's what in the lawyer's letter, he said, and Pete's lawyer said that this is all false, but it's happening because Jonathan was going to get the position, but then it was changed right before the death of his father. It was changed, so he didn't get it. So now this is like him being mad.
Yeah. And you know why this happened? It's not because, you know why he didn't get the position? It's because he was determined to out Pete. Jonathan was determined, and his dad knew that, so he changed who was going to get the throne.
And I don't think he was determined to out Pete like immediately, because this happened a few years ago. I think he was determined to like find justice, whatever that looked like, for his daughter.
Yeah.
And maybe thought in this moment, in this time, like maybe that means like internally with them, because it sounds like they had some times where they had family meetings and like, you know, tried to work it out, or it said everybody apologized to each other, you know? So I don't think he was like trying to out him from the beginning, but I think once it got to this point where he saw there was no other option.
And I have to say something else about this guy, Pete, and people like this guy, and people that are, you know, CSA people, as well as people that are accused of SA, or people that are also accused of like just frankly infidelity. These people will often dig their heels in and lie. They will admit up to as much as they're caught for, and then they'll lie to protect everything that they have. So Pete's going to lie to protect the marriage that he has and protect the family that he has, because if he's outed for this, and if he admits to it, it's like literally, it's like criminal allegations.
Right.
And so anyway, this guy's going to lie to the end. And most of these people will lie. They'll just straight up lie. Instead of, what is his excuse for standing in a room? Oh, I just followed your daughter up to, I knew she was
getting ready to get in the pool. She was going to put on her bathing suit.
So I just followed her up there. Okay, what's your excuse for that? Well, I just really like her. She's a great kid, and I just really love her. Like, that's what Marcus said. It's like he just loves her and wants to spend time around her. Dude, are you sick in the mind? Are you that blinded by your own bias? Like, what is going on? There is no excuse for this. That's why Pete didn't answer any of the questions from the assessment. His wife did.
Yeah, that part is very strange.
You put that guy alone in a room with a questioner, he'll shrink like a worm. Like the dude's got, yeah. All right. Okay. Pete's lawyer also claimed in his letter that his client had volunteered to sit for a clinical polygraph examination. He was found to be truthful in the polygraph examination, wherein he... Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Okay, this is interesting about the polygraph.
When asked about the polygraph, Jonathan wrote in a statement to TRR that Joni Lamb's new husband, sex therapist, and Daystar host Doug Weiss owns a polygraph company.
Convenient.
How convenient. Given Weiss's extensive knowledge of polygraphs, I believe these findings can be easily manipulated, which I've heard that before. A polygraph company linked to Weiss's counseling webpage is Honest to Pete Polygraph.
Honest to Pete Polygraph. I wonder if that's how they got his name, Pete.
Jeez. The company states in its fact page that it does not conduct polygraphs centered on sex offenses. Well, they did this time. Also, according to lawinfo.com, lie detector tests have questionable reliability and are generally not admissible in evidence in court. All right, you keep going.
TR specifically asked Daystar if Doug, so you're saying Weiss?
I guess, I don't know. Weiss.
I would want to say Weiss, but
you can do it however you want.
Had
I love you even if you're wrong.
I've said a lot of words wrong, so it'll just be another. Administered the test and requested documentation of findings, but Daystar did not respond to our request. Jonathan also addressed the assertion by Daystar and Pete's lawyer that Jonathan and Suzy's family continue to spend time with Pete. Ever since the executive retreat on August 3rd, 2021, Suzy and I have had a strict boundary to keep Pete and his wife from ever being alone with our daughter, nor has he stepped foot into our house. Jonathan said his family took one beach vacation in June 2022 because Joni was adamant that we go as a family for her sake since she was a new widow. That makes sense. Suzy added that she felt sorry for Joni and agreed to go, stipulating that the children would sleep in the basement near her and Jonathan.
I hope people can hear that. That is like clear as day.
Mm-hmm. Jonathan and Suzy noted that Rebecca and JW did not go on the family vacation, and Pete is not allowed in their house. Okay, Rebecca and JW, Pete's not allowed in your house either. You need to respond to these articles. You need to say something.
Up.
Show up for your brother and sister-in-law, and most of all, your niece.
Who cares about
your show?
No, who is your spiritual covering, Rebecca? Who is your spiritual covering, JW? You think it's your mom? You think your mom and Doug Weiss, the sex therapist, polygraph guy, is your spiritual covering? Or is that your spiritual covering? Or is the Lord your spiritual covering? Is Jesus Christ the truth you're covering? Maybe you need to rethink what spirit is telling you to be silent and what spirit might tell you to speak for those who can't speak for themselves and to expose the darkness.
Jonathan also noted that in 2022, both he and Suzy still believed that Debbie had cleared Pete. In 2023, when the couple learned otherwise, they took their daughter to a counselor who then reported the suspected abuse to Texas Child Protective Services. See, that's what I mean is like you're trying to convince yourself it didn't happen. Anyways, This is your 5-year-old. You do not want to believe this is true.
Don't want to believe it.
So if somebody comes, Debbie Leonhardt or whatever, and says that Pete had been cleared, But that, if somebody said that, you're going to grab that and you're going to take it and you're going to be like, thank God. Yeah. Thank God this didn't really happen.
But you still deep down would be like, I'm not sure if I trust this guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he followed my daughter into the room when she was changing. And then when I came in, he was still standing there.
So they were told he was cleared. But whenever they found out in 2023 that was not true, they were like, oh, everything that we already knew, we know. And so then they went to CPS. I know it is so, don't make me cry right now. It is so messed up and it is so sad. Okay. According to Jonathan and Suzy, CPS then reported the suspected abuse to the police, who have since reactivated their previous investigation. Police records obtained by TR show a pending investigation into alleged SA involving Jonathan and Suzy's daughter. As of time of publishing, no charges have been filed. Daystar also alleges in its statement that this smear campaign is the sad result of Jonathan not being designated as the future president of Daystar following his father's death, something Jonathan emphatically denies.
We'll explore this allegation in an upcoming article. We'll also reveal Joni's marriage to Doug Weiss, who filed for divorce from his wife of nearly 30 years just 2 months after Marcus died. Well, that's weird, Doug.
That is strange. Especially since he's like a marriage counselor or sex therapist or whatever he is.
Let's watch this real quick. We already watched this, didn't we? Mm-hmm. We saw this one. Oh my gosh.
So there'll be more articles coming out, it sounds like, from Julie. And then also...
let's keep moving. Let's read this one.
Let's go. Let's do this other one.
Candy Shand. I don't... Is that her name? I think that's her name. She's a reporter. I don't know a lot about her. I know that she's like... done a ton of popular articles, and she's been on Fox and MSNBC, or interviewed on PBS, Fox and Friends, the New York Times. I know she interviewed Tucker Carlson. So anyway, so I believe she spoke to the whistleblower and was holding this story until it broke.
Suzy and Jonathan spoke with them. Yeah.
So, okay. You want me to start it?
Sure.
For the love of money is the root of all evil, a Daystar story. That is like, that tells the story right there. Hang on tight. The unveiling won't be pretty. It's dark and disturbing. So if you're up for it, I understand. If you're not up for it, I understand. Full disclosure, I've watched this Christian television network, Daystar, for years. I love some of the shows and others not so much, but let me be clear, I do not have a personal axe to grind at all. This story was generated from my encounter with Suzy Lamb last summer. Soon after our meeting, my heart broke over the disclosures, grave injustices, and disturbing secrets. And for the record, everything she shared with me is verifiable by detailed documentation, including police reports, screenshots, as well as multitude of video and audio recordings, which I've seen and heard. Am I concerned that after writing this piece, I'll be in the crosshairs of Daystar, a powerful international television ministry that boasts they're worth $1 billion? Sure, a little bit. But at this point, I don't care. Good for you. The bottom line is I refuse to live in fear of incoming threats from powerful entities or by internal terror that if I speak up, the sky might fall and crush me beyond existence. Instead, I'll lean on my faith while adhering to the wisdom from the Latin phrase, I'm not sure what that says, let justice be done though the heavens fall. That's a cool phrase. So for those willing to read on, here's the story in a nutshell. Suzy Lamb is married to Jonathan Lamb, who is the son of a Daystar founders Marcus and Joni. The problems began in 2020 when Jonathan and Suzy had reason to believe a 5-year-old child was being molested. They went to the police and filed a general report, not knowing the identity of the perpetrator. A few months later, they were convinced that an on-air Daystar personality. But when they shared their discovery, Joni made it clear God told her he was innocent, so they must drop the subject immediately. As tensions grew, Jonathan and Suzy were sent out of state for counseling in order to apologize to the man for suggesting he did this to the girl. Then Marcus Lamb suddenly passed away, and Jonathan, who was the already member of the board, became the vice president of Daystar. A year and a half later, Joni married Doug Weiss, a marriage counselor and frequent Daystar guest who recently left his wife of over 30 years. Doug's a man, by the way, who once blurted out on Christian television that Christ died so we can have great sex. And before you ask, no, I'm not kidding. In addition, he notably said, you have, oh my gosh, a cursed thingamajigger, or you can have a blessed one. And he followed it up by reading scripture while randomly interjecting the word into the biblical text.
He sounds like a middle schooler.
Like, anyway, oh my gosh.
Well, so for people listening, you should say what the word is, right? Or spell it.
I guess.
Something.
I feel weird just saying that, but I guess,
I'll say, I don't know, pin 15. Do you remember when you write you write pin 15, you'd be like, on your hand? You would write it on somebody's hand. You write, you're in the pin 15 club. And then it would say that on their hand.
Was that something that happened in high school or something?
Middle school.
I'm like, was that something that happened in college? Like, no. I think I remember that only because of that show. Was there a show called that or something? Pin 15?
I don't know.
Anyway, whatever. Yeah, people get it. You know, in my lifetime, I've heard some crazy theology, but I honestly just can't with this man. One day, Jonathan noticed what he believed were serious financial improprieties at the ministry, and he began to ask questions, among other expenditures. He was alarmed by approximately $100,000 billed to Daystar for Joni and Doug's 1-week honeymoon. And nope, that's not a mathematical typo. That's an actual Kardashian-style 6-figure vacation. From the beginning, Joni's marriage to Doug had created great tension, but Joni was adamant that anyone who did not approve of the union would be banished from Daystar, including immediate family members. And then it happened, the read the card or else showdown. You want to take over?
One morning, moments before airtime, Jonathan and Suzy refused to recite a note praising Doug. Correspondence that was supposedly sent in by a viewer, offering what felt like a public endorsement, went against their religious principles and was something they said they'd never do. But that didn't sit well with Joni. Consequently, Jonathan and Suzy disappeared from television. So they wouldn't read a card praising her new husband, who had just left his wife of 30 years.
From the kingdom.
And so, yeah. Okay. Their show was canceled. And despite public outcry, their on-air appearances came to a screeching halt. In response, staff were directed to tell viewers they were both on a sabbatical. That was a lie.
That's crazy.
That's so
Why do you lie about things? Like, this is not going to end up well for Daystar. It's not.
All right. Fair warning. Before I go further, let me give you the word of the day. And that word is submit. In this context, submission will be used in a highly manipulative, cultish way and repeated more than you can likely tolerate. In response to Jonathan and Suzy's growing concerns, I always say her name wrong. Joni?
Joni.
Joni brought in Minister Jimmy Evans as a mediator of sorts. In a rather fiery exchange, he admonished the couple to either quit or stop pursuing issues of conscience, insisting they were merely employees who were in no position to question Joni. Jonathan countered that.
Jimmy Evans?
Do you know who that is?
I do. He's an older minister. He's been around for a long time. I only know the name. I can't think of like what he looks like. But all these names, and it's like, is this real life? Hey, you guys are just employees of this ministry. You are in no position to question your mother on her new husband or how she wants you to read something that goes against your conscience. So you submit your conscience to your mom. It's like, what? Anyway,
yeah.
Keep going.
Jonathan countered that it was his responsibility as a man who must hold to his convictions, and as the vice president of Daystar, who has a fiduciary responsibility on the board. But Evans doubled down, repeatedly saying they must submit to Joni. Why? Because when she says something at Daystar, it's like God said it. Yeah, you read that right. Like God said it. In another heated discussion, Joni warned Jonathan and Suzy that if they didn't submit, God might curse them. She went on to explain that rebellion to her authority was an act of witchcraft. Okay, wait.
Right.
I don't want to talk about the curse thing, but listen to this. And to make matters worse, Joni said their 2 young children might be cursed too. I cannot handle the cursing families.
Oh, you mean the Christian witchcraft?
Which she's
I didn't
saying,
realize that, but I called that out earlier on Joni. I was like, this is Christian witchcraft. You brought this child in and silenced this child. Same Christian witchcraft.
She's saying that rebellion to her authority is an act of witchcraft.
Well, you know where that comes from. Samuel goes in. So God tells Saul to wipe out the Amalekites. And then Samuel goes in to check on it afterward, realizes Saul didn't do it. And he says, and Samuel says to Saul, God's going to strip the kingdom from you and give it to somebody who's a man after his own heart, meant David. And then Saul begs that it doesn't happen. And Samuel says, rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft. So that scripture, which is true, but in this context, this is what's crazy, is these people take these scriptures and demand submission to themselves. And then they bring in prophets or apostles who will tell their people to demand submission to themselves. Mm-hmm. And if you're not, they literally speak curses, word curses. I've heard this. I've had it happen to me. When you confront a leader, you confront somebody in authority, you confront out of honor and respect and love and purpose and truth and integrity. And instead of going, thank you for going by your conscience and speaking to me about this. Instead, it's like,
your kids are going to be cursed.
You're going to be cursed. You're in danger of being cursed, and your kids are going to be cursed. It's like, wait, what?
It's so wild because it's literally her own grandkids. It is her grandkids. She is saying your family, your grandkids will be cursed if you do not honor me. I can't.
She's off in a different world because she's married to this new husband that apparently has a blessed Pen 15, and she's all about that life and also about the life of not protecting her grandchild and then speaking curses over that same grandchild and bringing Jimmy Evans to do it too. You know what this reminds me of? I'm sure before this meeting, she sat down with Jimmy Evans and maybe a couple others and was like, this is how this meeting's going to go. Mm-hmm. Jimmy, we need you to drop the hammer of judgment on them, which is just like what we saw at the Garden Greenville, how they would pull people in and prepare these meetings, and then you bring people in and you just smash them. And the leader doesn't even have to say the words.
Right, they can just sit there.
They get somebody else to
let
do it.
the enforcer.
Chad brought these people in, and then Chad would sit back, and then Michael would say the harsh words, or the elder would say the harsh words. But it all came from the top down. Submit to the house, submit to the authority, and you'll be blessed. You don't, you'll be cursed. Okay.
Right. This seemed more than manipulative, but cruel, a form of spiritual abuse, yes, and a classic sign of cult-like behavior. I'm telling you, this is like so Scientology all over it.
It is.
Despite the ominous threats, Suzy stood firm. So ultimately, she was fired for not being submissive to Joni, obeying the voice of God and all that. And it didn't stop there. Suzy's mother and father were placed on the chopping block too. With questionable cause, their jobs as leaders on the prayer team were terminated. So her parents worked there too. And they were fired. In the meantime, Suzy was unable to comprehend what was happening and for a moment believed she could refocus leaders back to the original intent of the ministry. One day she said, "Jesus died for people, not for $1 billion. The response? Laughter. Then, one morning, Jonathan observed network surveillance footage as a security guard attached something to his car.
Scientology.
Yes.
Joni, you're done. Daystar, done. Daystar, Dynasty, done.
He had the police check it out, and a tracker was found. He came to the quick realization Daystar was following his every move.
I've already
this
seen
is
posts.
so
Listen to
creepy.
this. I've already seen posts tonight from people that I like and trust, people that I really like in the ministry world. They're posting whispers and gossip is going around about ministries. Some people have found themselves to be judges, basically judges and jury. Like there's this post like going around. Listen, y'all need to, the problem is people say, well, don't listen to the allegations. Don't listen to the accusations. Don't listen because you're listening to the accuser. You are falling into the trap of silencing the victim. And guess who you're listening to? You're listening to Joni. You'll listen to Joni's statement and you'll read it. You'll read Joni's statement. Isn't that gossip? If you read Joni Lamb's statement, isn't that gossip? Because she's gossiping about Jonathan Lamb and about Suzy Lamb and about the whole situation. So her statement is gossip, right? No. You'll read that because it covers for it's safety. To those that love big ministries and love the ministry, love big ministries, they find their hope in it. It's like it's safety to them. It's like no more ministries can fall. No more ministers can fall. No, I can't have that. It'll hurt. It'll hurt so bad. It's like just open your eyes and see all the sides and then judge righteously. Don't be afraid of information.
Yeah.
Like it's not like you get ick on you because you read the story. Like actually read the story so you stop supporting imagine if people like grandmas giving their final dollars to this ministry all the time. And don't read the bad story. Don't read the bad story. Keep giving your money to this ministry that uses $100,000 for
a honeymoon.
Their honeymoon.
$100,000 for 1 week. That is nuts.
Pen 15.
All right. When Jonathan confronted the guard, the officer adamantly denied it was a tracker. Afterward, it was announced that additional devices were placed on other company vehicles, which appeared to some as a cover. Yeah, so he lied. The guard lied to him.
In addition, a private investigator was caught on multiple occasions following them and their young children. Life at Daystar, when one wasn't in submission, was starting to get crazy. Keep going.
While hiring a PI or tracking an industry-owned car is not illegal, to many, it revealed panic-stricken leadership attempts to maintain control in a twisted environment. But it only got worse when Jonathan received an official call from the network. He was told several messages had come in from an unidentified man threatening to violently assault Suzy. At first, Suzy believed the reports and became terrified of leaving her house. She'd often collapse on the floor while praying that if she was going to be killed, it would be quick and her children wouldn't be the ones to find her body. But eventually, Suzy's fear lifted as close friends questioned if the messages might be coming from someone on the inside, perhaps as a form of intimidation, to not only stop her from talking, but to persuade her to return to the fold where she might feel protected.
Yeah, you get under the covering and you're protected. You shut your mouth and you submit and you trust. Just trust us. That's what the leaders say. It's like the mob boss. Hey, just trust us. We got this. All right.
Can I read it some?
Yeah. Where's it at? To persuade to protect. I don't know, Candy, she said to me, but I worked at Daystar for years and I never received a single threat before. Besides accusations of witchcraft, endless demands for submission, and threats of impending curses, it was obvious Jonathan and Suzy could not be controlled. So Daystar went into overdrive to lock down outgoing information, information control. Trustees and key employees, including Lamb family members and their spouses, were given a mandate to sign NDAs because, as many believe, NDAs keep secrets hidden deep inside an institution under the contract, they could not talk about perceived improprieties or anything negative they observed at Daystar for threat of being fired and or sued. When Jonathan refused to sign it, his position as VP of Daystar was terminated and he was kicked off the board where he had access to vast financial information. Care to guess where Jonathan Lamb was transferred? Besides being assigned to a couple small departments, his mother put him in charge of Daystar Cafe. That is just like... And the ones that are keeping their mouth shut, guess what? They still got their show. Congratulations. You have vast influence in this worldly kingdom. Congrats. And you have great paychecks. It means nothing to the actual kingdom of God, what you're doing. Your silence is complicity. It's totally complicit. Complicity? Complicitness.
That works.
Complacency? Both? All of them? Somebody get me a dictionary. To go from vice president of a billion-dollar network and a member of the board to managing an eatery was a huge demotion that some perceived as a veiled message. If I do this to my own son, don't think for a moment you won't be next. Makes sense. Keep on.
So it's not surprising. Nearly everyone got in line, signed NDAs, shut their mouths, and kept the paychecks rolling in. Oh, that is why Rebecca and
sign an NDA
and JW or whatever aren't speaking up. They can't respond.
Sign an NDA.
They're
like they're basically like, you know, they're in the Michael Brown camp, the NDA camp.
And speaking of money, now that Jonathan is off the board and can no longer monitor spending, perhaps it's time to open the books at Daystar, a ministry that paid for $100,000 honeymoon and possesses a private jet often used for extravagant personal travel, so it can undergo a deep dive independent forensic audit. An audit, however, is unlikely. Why? Because Daystar is not registered as a ministry nonprofit. Instead, Daystar is registered as a church.
That's what these big ministries do, and that's the same reason why I've seen other large ministries, they just start a church. They register as a church because it says it allows them additional levels of financial privacy, including not having to disclose certain expenditures via 990 to the IRS. So they don't have to expose their expenditures via 990 to the IRS because they're a church. Somehow ministries...
Do they have church services at Daystar?
Yeah, you just get a chapel service and that's your church service. Yeah, you just you call it whatever you want, or to the public. And now back to the alleged assault of a 5-year-old. In February of 2024, Jonathan and Suzy were given additional confirming information. Consequently, along with their new counselors, they reached out to the private child CPS, where the case was immediately reopened. So all things considered, you might wonder what took Jonathan and Suzy so long to go public. It's helpful to remember they grew up in ministry. This is a great point here. What took them so long? Why did you continue to hang out with us? You know, they were taught that submitting to authority is an act of spiritual purity. This is all they knew. I believe Jonathan and Suzy are good people who love God and respect authority, but quite honestly, they were also naive. Crippled by warped theology, they were blindsided by the behavior of family, manipulative ministers, and threatening lawyers who put them in a state of shock for a couple years. In the meantime, Jonathan and Suzy waited on God, and they prayed, seeking wisdom for when and how to share their story. Then we met, something we considered providence. All right, you go ahead.
Intimidation, belittling, the sit-down from famous pastors and high-powered attorneys have frightened Suzy Lamb long enough, but guess what? She isn't afraid anymore. As for Jonathan, even though this is his family and a ministry he watched grow from the time he was an infant, he made the courageous decision at great personal cost to stand for integrity. And the CSA report, although the initial investigation stalled, it has now moved up the ladder to the office of Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton. Fast forward to now. On Friday night, November 15th, an investigative reporter who's been working on the Child A story for a few months contacted Joni Lamb and other family members to request comment for an upcoming article. The next afternoon, Jonathan and Suzy, who were hidden away with their children at an undisclosed safe location, observed video from their home security monitor. They watched as a Daystar guard, the same one who'd put the tracker on their car, showed up in a bulletproof vest to leave an official letter on their door. So they knew the way things work because they had they went to an undisclosed safe location before they knew that they were going to reach out for comment for the article. So it's like, they're scared. Like, these people are scary.
It's the mob.
Who has to go to an undisclosed location from your own family?
Let's just call it the ministry. Like, let's pretend like it's not even your family, just a ministry. Why would you have to go to undisclosed location?
And like she said, putting him in the cafe, and how she was saying, if I would do this to my own son, like making like an example out of him. Yeah. So if she would do this to her own son, like imagine all the other employees from Daystar who had trackers
she doesn't care.
Investigators.
She doesn't care about her kids. And you know what she sees herself as in this situation is the judgment of God. She literally sees her voice as the voice of God. Well, I'm choosing to demote you. This is God demoting you. And he's like, you know what? I'm going to choose to expose you. This is God exposing you.
A few minutes later, Jonathan was sent an email informing him that he'd been fired over unmet ministry expectations set for him several months prior. Notably, the termination occurred the day after Joni Lamb was contacted by the press regarding claims of a Child A cover-up. The letter also included warnings that if Jonathan or Suzy spoke to any third-party individuals, the media, they'd be opening themselves up to a lawsuit. You know, I find in life, truth eventually rises to the surface in God's timing, and if people are brave. Yes, he is patient and he is gracious, but at some point, if we love God, and I believe leaders at Daystar actually do, but stop fearing him, he has ways of shining light on the darkness if we're unwilling to do so ourselves. Make no mistake about it, this gut-wrenching exposure is not the result of bitter individuals getting even, although Daystar will likely spin it that way, but rather it's the result of Jesus flipping tables. Brace for impact, people. Nothing can stop what's coming.
All right. That's, I guess that's the new location for the Ministry of Daystar. Man. Hashtag Daystar Dynasty done. Daystar Dynasty done. And, you know, at the end of the day, yeah, this is very heartbreaking for the child. Sad. And that's what's missing here from, you know, you look at the actions of Joni Lamb here for her son, moving him to the head of the cafe or whatever. Hey, if I'll do this to my own son, I'll mess with all of you too. But it also shows her lack of true care for the individuals in her own family, including her granddaughter, who she met with privately. And can I just get weird? I don't know. She wiped her memory. She performed a little voodoo spell on her. She told her if she does this, she'll ruin the family. If she speaks up, she'll ruin the legacy. She'll ruin her parents. I mean, if you do this, you'll ruin your whole parents' life. Your family will be ruined. You need to listen. Listen, honey. Who knows what the words are? But it was
I can't even imagine. And I would hate that if I was the mother too and father, to know that your own mother said something to your daughter that has made it to where she won't even talk to you about this anymore. Yeah. Like, I would be so mad.
Yeah. And you know, these things, it's like when you research this stuff, and thank God that she has incredible parents. Like Jonathan, Suzy, we honor you guys. We absolutely respect you guys. You've shown your true colors by simply stepping up to the plate and pretty much losing everything for the sake of your daughter and for the sake of truth and integrity. And so thank God this little girl has incredible parents that are going to love her through this. And I believe she's going to be a story of redemption through this. But as you research this stuff, and I mean, it really, like the way she shut down because of the intimidation from her grandmother and these things, it really hurts kids in such deep ways. And it's just reminiscent to me of all the way that her grandmother did this to her. It makes me think of all these, you know, Hollywood kids or something that end up that don't have parents available, and they have these people that are handlers that do these things and speak these things. And like I said, with Suzy and Jonathan, the fact that they're there and they're I see a redemption story more than possible that's going to happen with this. But it's so devastating, and this is why, you know, like, I don't know, we can't prop up these leaders like they're some God authority because of like when they're literally hurting the sheep. We might say, well, you know, it was this guy, Pete, or some people that are listening and read the story say, well, no, there's no proof, or there's no, it's like, well, that there's enough in this story to say the analyst or the Leonhardt or whatever didn't even analyze Pete.
Yeah.
Like the wife answered all the questions. And then when she said, hey, I can't give an assessment until you come back alone, he's like, never comes back. There's so much just that proves this guy is a total weasel and has completely lied and most likely allegedly done this. And so my issue with Marcus and Joni, and it's hard because Marcus is dead, you know, like, what do you say? I mean, people usually say, like, when people say Marcus, God rest his soul, you know, or something like that. It's like, he is at the mercy of Christ right now, because this man caused a little one to stumble, caused them to stumble further into worse situations because he would not stand up for his own grandchild. And so it's just like, and Joni, you're here on this side. You got a shot. Like, fear God again. You fear the money. You fear the new husband. You fear the loss of everything you've gained, but you are in danger of losing everything. And might I add, your own soul into the lies and the cover-ups. Well, I'm not lying, but you're covering up. And that, in my mind, is just as bad as a lie or worse. What do you think? Final thoughts? I mean,
I don't know. Yeah, this one's just too heartbreaking, too sad. I guess one thing I would say to any parent, the same way, you know, Suzy noticed his eyes, noticed him following her. And the same way, like, Jonathan went up there right away and was like, what are you doing? There's no such thing as overreacting when it comes to your kids. Like, there's no such thing as being as overreacting, especially when it comes to like SA or thinking there's possible CSA.
Potential for it,
yeah. Just who cares if you're overreacting? You can't. It's impossible to overreact about your own kids in a situation like this. So don't let anybody make you feel like you are crazy or being ridiculous, or that, oh, they just love your kids. They're just, you know, in there playing. They just care about them. Like, don't let anybody make you feel like protecting your child is overreacting or is, you know, is too much, you know?
Yeah. And that's big. That's a great point, because there's this whole idea of like, well, don't be a helicopter parent. You got to let your kid like grow and explore. It's like, well, be a parent that has a gut and follows it. Listen, it's an uncle or whatever. And you're like, he's following her up there. All the justifications coming around. Well, I don't want to like him to think that we're accusing him of, maybe he's just like going, maybe he's got to grab something. Maybe he's got to, it's like, I don't want him to think that we're.
Well, like she even said in there, like Joni said, she was like, you don't want to make them feel weird. How would you make them feel?
Yeah.
It's like, I don't care about making anybody feel weird.
Yeah.
Like, that's my daughter in there. Like,
you got to put yourself in what people don't do oftentimes, parents that are scared to maybe look crazy or something. Like, you got to put yourself in the position of the person following that kid up the stairs. What type of ignorant, or I don't know what the right word is, naivety would you have to be in to not realize that even if like you don't, like, what type of naivety would you be in to be in the room and suddenly the young girl's suddenly grabbing for some clothes and you get out now. Like, there's no, or following her up knowing she's going to be changing. That is clearly like, so if you put yourself in that position, you're like, well, I would never do that. That's weird. So it's like, you know what? I'm not going to put it past anybody that they could be the psycho, that they could be the sociopath, that they could be the pervert, that they could be the one. Like, honey, follow him up. You know what I mean? It's like the bathroom situation that we talked about in our last podcast. Frankly, I saw that gentleman dressed like a woman walking into the restaurant, and I felt something very strange. And literally, we connected eyes, and it was a very strange eye connection, because I was like, that was weird. And that was definitely a man. And he went directly to the bathroom. And I didn't know it. And you texted me literally 30 seconds after that weird interaction happened. You said, I'm in the bathroom with a man. And I stood up and I was like, I don't know if I'm going to seem crazy, but my 7-year-old daughter is in the bathroom and my wife's in the bathroom with a man dressed like a woman. And she's suddenly very uncomfortable. I'm going to take my boys and we're going to walk in that bathroom. Mm-hmm. Now, by the time I got inside, that person was already walking out. But it's that type of thing where you go, you know what? I'm going to be the guardian of my children. Mm-hmm. And there's too many stories from the 90s and the early 2000s of parenting that sadly was more disconnected for whatever reason, because parents were married to their jobs way more. Dads were not present, and we trusted in everybody else to raise our kids or whatever. And that's why all these stories of people come out with all these stories of what happened to them. Mm-hmm. And so it's not overboard to go, you know what, we're just going to pay attention and we're going to follow our gut. So anyway, I just want to reiterate what you're saying. I think it's a great point, what you said there. So yeah. Well, guys, thanks for tuning in. And if you just show your support for Jonathan and Suzy. And I want to say this is not a cancel culture thing, because people will be accused of being, well, you're just trying to cancel Daystar. It's like, nah, we're actually trying to cancel leadership that allows for CSA in the body of Christ. Yeah, I want to cancel that completely. I want to destroy that. That's terrible. It's so evil. And if that's not in your heart to cancel that, then I would question whether you have the Spirit of God, frankly. So this is not a cancel culture thing. This is not liberal woke mob. This is like, we're just here to call out the BS in the body of Christ and to expose it and uproot it. Jeremiah was called to tear down and to destroy, to uproot, to tear down, destroy, and then to build and to plant. Well, we want to build reality in the body of Christ, but we got to tear down all this other stuff and get people's eyes off of the celebrity culture and all this stuff. So share the story from Julie, share the story from Candy, share this podcast on all platforms. Let's get this story out. Let's get the truth out there. So let's pray for justice. All right, guys. Thanks.
Bye.
Peace.